Time is about to run out forever on Greece and Turkey. Those nations will be obliterated in 3 days. Well, at least the country ball plushie form of those countries. Get them before their Thanos snap. Remember, if you reserve both, you will get a discount. Public sentiment towards artificial intelligence. The exact question asked to each country: do products and services using AI have more benefits than drawbacks? And there is very clearly a geographical divide here. The data is showing that people living in wealthier countries seem to be less positive about AI products. I guess I feel the same way. I don't really care. I don't understand all the hype, to be honest. I'm still confused about it. AI is supposed to revolutionize the educational industry, healthcare, finance, law, and transportation. I don't know. That doesn't really impact me at all. I mean, it probably will. I'm sure it will, but I'm just saying right now. So all the countries below the dash line, the majority of the public believe it's going to have a negative impact, or at the very least, they think less positively of what it's going to provide. France is actually at the very bottom, with only maybe 30% of their people saying yes, they're excited for it. They believe there will be more drawbacks. And the US is not too far above them, only the Netherlands and Canada below. We've got places like Germany, Australia, the UK, Belgium, Japan, Sweden. They are all still below 50%. Spain thinks AI is going to have more improvements. Also Russia, Argentina, South Africa, Brazil, Turkey, South Korea. South Korea is definitely an outlier here, interestingly. Also Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Malaysia, Peru, India, Saudi Arabia, and number one is China. So China seems to be extremely excited. Almost 80% of their respondents saying there's going to be more benefits. Also, the bar color represents the GDP per capita of these nations. This probably comes down to a larger percentage of the people that are saying no work in like services industries. They might be worried about jobs. I'm down for AI Durnil to come out though. Nations ranked according to influence. I want to add a big asterisk here, according to US News. Okay, well that kind of says a lot. So unsurprisingly, US News says the US is the most influential nation on earth. Whoa! We also ranked Canada pretty high. We have Turkey, Greece, Italy, France, Spain, Germany, the UK, and Sweden at the higher ends of the tier list. Dang, what do we have against the Baltic nations? They're the only ones in the red, besides like Slovakia, Serbia, Slovenia. So some of those nations were getting anywhere between 60th and 80th. Okay, so if you're in gray, you're even lower than that, I guess. Like you didn't even make the chart. Interesting that the US put all the BRIC nations as very influential. Well, except for South Africa. Sorry, South Africa. Oh, what do we got against New Zealand? How did you not put New Zealand? Just Lord of the Rings alone should put New Zealand in the dark blue, I feel. For Philippines and Indonesia, you think they'd be a little bit higher, just strictly population, especially Indonesia. They're supposed to pass us up one day in population, or at least get really close. Cuisine alone should put Mexico in the dark blue. Interesting that most of the Spanish-speaking parts of Latin America are in red, but they do got Brazil here. Puerto Rico, I think, is in blue, but that's a U.S. territory, so I think they automatically got into blue. Dang, what do we have against this Central American nation? This is such an odd map. Like, I don't even get, why did we make this? Sweden and Greece outranked the Dutch? This is the number of U.S. currency currently in circulation. So there's about 14.3 billion $1 bills out there. Who's stashing all these ones? Well, actually, I can think of a couple places, but I don't see any ones ever. No, that's not true, but I'm just saying. I had no idea there's 1.5 billion $2 bills. Now, I have barely ever seen a $2 bill. How in the world is there over a billion of these? Where are they all? Someone just putting them in a museum? There's actually not that much less $2 bills than $5 bills. I thought there'd be way more than 3.5 billion $5 bills. Also, over time, isn't this going down since, like, you know, people are just doing online banking now? There's 11.5 billion $20 bills, only 2.5 $50 bills. I do feel like that's pretty rare. Finally, the most common of them all, we have 18.5 billion $100 bills. When you put it like this, I feel like I should be able to walk out the street and find a $100 bill on the ground. How is there 18.5 billion of these? They gotta be stashed in banks, I'm guessing. Where are they at? As someone who almost never has any cash on me, like, this is just incredibly shocking that there's so many bills out there. I feel like everyone is actually asking that same question, like, where the hell are these things? Are billionaires just sitting on $100 bills? The world's trillion-dollar stock markets. To start things off, we've got Australia with 1.6 trillion. The little island nation of Taiwan with 2 trillion. Damn, how are they beating out Australia? In fact, they're even beating out South Korea. I mean, we are talking stock market here, but that's really surprising. Taiwan is not that far behind Germany, and Germany's like the third best economy in the world. Well, they're very closely behind Japan, at least. Then we got the Netherlands at 1 trillion, Switzerland at 1 trillion, Saudi Arabia with all that oil, Canada with 2.6. Here we go. Now things are getting a little bit bigger with the UK and France. I didn't know France was beating the UK. India with 4.4 trillion, Japan with 6.5. Then we have China. Wow, the fact that Japan is only like about halfway behind China is crazy, considering China has like 10 times the population. And obviously the big winner here is the US. We have the massive circle right there. I've been hearing this a lot lately, the Magnificent Seven, but it's recently been downgraded to like the whatever, the Fab 5. Tesla sucks now, and I can't remember which one else is not that great. Actually, 13.1 trillion of the 52 trillion is literally held up by these 7 companies. Like, that's insane. Seems a little scary. It's interesting that Germany has one of the smaller markets on the list despite being the 3rd largest country. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Countries deal with stocks differently, I guess. Here's part of the reason why Saudi Arabia is doing so well. Saudi Aramco's insane profits. So some of the Magnificent 7 are included here. Meta, Nvidia, Visa is not a part of that, but yeah, then McDonald's, Costco, Tesla. You'd have to combine all of those companies' net profit to even, I mean, even that is not beating out the Saudi Arabian company. 121 billion net profit. Now, this is definitely one of those things where like pretty much everything is going into that. Like, I'm thinking also a comparison could be like Samsung out of South Korea. South Korea has like just like 5 major companies. This is also after, despite having a 25% decrease from the previous year. Absolutely insane. Annual inflation rate in European countries. Obviously, some have not been doing as well as others. And we're mainly talking Turkey. Absolutely out of this world. They've experienced 67% inflation. Meanwhile, most of these other European countries still under 5%. The UK on the list is pretty high at 4%. Then again, at Norway and Sweden are even above that. Poor little Iceland at 6.6. Really interesting to see which of the countries are doing better than others when it comes to inflation. I believe in the US we're at like 3%? Oh yeah, it's 3.2%. Overall, the EU combined is still underneath that. And apparently economists say you want to be at 2%. That's like the target rate. That's okay. Whatever economist stuff. So I guess as a whole, the European Union isn't doing that bad. They're pretty much on par. Germany has not really been affected much. Czechia is actually at that rate. So it's like an important thing. You don't necessarily want 0, although Italy's been doing great. I actually just watched a video about how the Italian economy is doing really well relative to everyone else. Iberia is fine with Spain and Portugal. What's going on with Austria at 4.2? They're kind of an outlier, but a lot of their other neighbors kind of struggling. It's just Czechia. They're avoiding a lot of that. Romania's hit 7.4, which is definitely pretty high. Russia's at 7. Crazy that Estonia is so much higher than Latvia and Lithuania. How are they keeping it so low? Same question should definitely go to Denmark as well. Is it the Lego company? I really don't like inflation. It is so annoying. Casualties from traffic accidents in the US. As you can see, there are a lot more men that are dying in traffic accidents than women. And I really think this just comes down to one thing. We be going too fast on the road as men. I do it. And this explains why like car insurance companies charges men more, because we do things like this. I like how age ranges between 0 to 10 are included because they can technically be involved in, you know, traffic accidents. They're not driving the car though. I find it fascinating the group between 10 to 14-year-olds, that's when boys first start having like problems, so they're more likely to run in the street, I'm guessing. And obviously between the ages of 15 and 19, people are first starting to drive. Man, the rates for women, it stays pretty consistent. Obviously when you get older, it goes a little bit more up. Unsurprisingly, the bar for men, one of the highest groups is 20 to 24. Yep, you know, that's when you're going Lightning McQueen mode, saying I am the speed. And it doesn't get that high up until you go over 85 years old again. Yeah, if you're a guy, just slow it down a little bit. I should really be telling myself that, to be honest. I'm going a little crazy sometimes. Which state most often votes for the winner in presidential elections? So off the top of my head, I thought it was normally Ohio, and they are one of the top on the list. Out of the last 9 elections, they've picked 8 times correctly. Wait, there's been 9 elections since 1988? 1, 2, 3, 8. Oh, I guess there has been. It just doesn't feel right. Nevada has picked correctly 8 out of 9 times. It's really interesting that no one has picked perfectly out of the last 9. Florida's a pretty good shoo-in. I mean, 7 out of 9 is still pretty good. What I find more fascinating is some of the states that barely pick correctly. I mean, this is under 50% chance. The lowest is 4 out of 9 times, so it doesn't get any lower than that. You obviously kind of have to be a swing state to have better chances of getting, you know, higher election correct predictions. New Hampshire's done a pretty good job, and yeah, sometimes New Hampshire is considered a swing state. We're gonna see exactly how this gets updated when there's 10 elections coming up this year in the US. Well, it's not 10, the 10th one is coming up this year. Here is the current fertility rate in Europe. Now, rule of thumb is you want to be above 2 or at 2.1 to be above replacement. And literally this entire continent is below that. So that means that they are going to be losing people over time. Some of the countries that are doing slightly better than others, Turkey at 1.63, but they're still so far behind. Georgia's getting to 2. Bulgaria and Romania also doing all right. Again, the people in these nations aren't having 1.6 kid. Like there's not like a 0.6 kid that's like being busted out, like just with like one leg and one arm. On average, like a lot of couples are having 1 or 2 kids, but there's not enough 3 kid having families. You know, that's what really pulls up that number. So since it's above 1.5, a lot of people here are having at least 2 kids. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got places like Italy where a majority of the couples are only having 1. Oh my goodness, Spain is only having 1. 1.16? Actually, you know what? That's not necessarily the case. I've looked into this. Sometimes it's just like a lot of people aren't having kids. Once you have like one kid, then boom, you start busting them out. Typically, rule of thumb, depends where you're coming from, but you know what I mean. A lot of this is just like couples that chose not to have kids. That's what's driving down the numbers. Lithuania doing interestingly much less than, well, not much less, but a pretty good amount less than Latvia and Estonia. They're kind of more on par with Poland at 1.29. I didn't expect to see Poland so low. Czechia is okay, 1.6. This is why everyone's talking about depopulation, because this is not just going to magically change. Like, this is probably how things are going to be forever, really. You can't just like get people to have kids. Just can't do it. Maybe if there's some sort of apocalyptic event, maybe that's how. I don't know why. Okay. The countries with the most cheaters. This is percentage of married adults who have admitted to having an affair. Keyword is admitted here. This doesn't necessarily mean that these are the countries that cheat the most. These are the countries that are proud. I don't know. No, they're just willing to admit it. To start things off, we've got Finland at 36%. A third? Now, this can't be saying a third of all married adults in Finland have cheated. Or it can't be saying it's more because, again, these people are willing to admit it. There's no way like half of Finnish married couples have cheated, right? The UK is also at 36%. I just want to know, did they ask these questions with their partner right there? We got Spain at 39, Belgium at 40, Norway and France above 40. We got the old World War II allies tied here, both Germany and Italy at 45%. Damn, that is half. Oh my, that is basically half. And again, willing to admit it. I'm hoping that like the way that the poll was conducted, it was really safe, so they felt safe saying it, because I don't want to imagine these numbers are any higher, even though they probably are a little bit. It could range. But the number one country on the list is Thailand. Why Thailand? It's like all these European countries and then just Thailand. What the fuck is going on in Thailand? Over 50%. Like, I don't think there's just like this policy of honesty that's particularly going on in Thailand. I know people love to go on vacation spots to Thailand, so is it with like tourists, or maybe the people that move to Thailand tend to be more cheaters because, I don't know. I've got so many questions. I need to know like the US data now. This is claiming that between 10 to 15% of women have cheated in the US and 20 to 25% of men. That is, I don't know. Seeing them other numbers, I don't know what to believe anymore. This is claiming 89% of affairs never get found out. Damn, that's a jeez. A whole other aspect of this is, what do you define as cheating or having an affair? Like emotional cheating, is that a thing that people are putting into consideration? I'm like trying to defend people here. I'm, you know, trying my best, but this is crazy. British bombers during World War II, some were a lot bigger than others. We got the Armstrong Whitworth Whitley. Jeez, with all these W's here, Britain, come on. First flown in 1936, only needed a crew of 5 to operate. There's this one which only needed 3 right here. A bomber only requiring 3 pilots? That's kind of crazy. I don't know. When I think of bomber, I expect there's going to be a pretty big crew. Again, 1937, so World War II still hasn't broken out. Another 3-man bomber with the Handley Page Hamden. A lot thicker in that nose. Something's going on there. That'd be kind of a fun spot to be, I feel. Actually, I don't know. Never mind. I don't want to be put in a plane that's going to get shot at. Vickers Wellington. There we go. If 6 people, maximum speed, operational range is the thing that really made that a big bombing plane. They must have found a way to make fuel more efficient, or they grabbed more fuel in it. Finally, the short Sterling, World War II is officially broken out, so when this entered service, a lot more bombs on this plane. Oh man, you could tell it's thick too. That's a thick boy. Here's the Handley Page Halifax. Here's a bomber that only required 2 people. This was in the 1940s, so it has a very good maximum speed. It doesn't have much range, but it can also go pretty high up. The overall designs just changed so much, and we're only talking like a 2 to 3 year period. Surprised that this was rolled out in 1940. I mean, technically in terms of max range, operational range, like it didn't have a whole lot going on. There must have been a specialty to it. It was easier to build, less resource heavy. Finally, a plane that was first flown pretty far after the war had started. Again, this is another operational range where it had a bunch of operational range, only 7 crew members, lots of bombs in there. Oh man, I wanted it to keep going. This was actually really interesting. It's interesting to see the way military technology obviously developed throughout World War II. And big thanks to my patrons.
DrewI'mYourDadBackWithTheMilkLookOutside.
Kansas was mentioned.
DoOOCHBAGGINS.
aPhatNarwhal.
Carmel
Amateur Archaeology.
DaBeautiful-MEGAN-Underwood.
Henrik Hedlund.
InquisitorXarius.
Traven's annoying friend.
KirinoIsBestGirl.
LuxembourgLover.
RyeThePie.
I love
the
Tambre.
Mexican 760.
And ZaneyBoi.